Alright, so I took the time to think about this for the last 18 seconds. And I guess where I should start are like the abilities, right? Like classes have abilities or something, or so I'm told. So what I have here is I have bartender, which is, I love that. I love that add-on. I just like organizing item management type stuff a lot. Anyway, I digress. Alright, so I've got bartender, and I've got my sort of abilities here. I don't think you can see my mouse in the playback, but it's sort of this lower quadrant, lower half of the screen, lower hemisphere. And we've got sort of like, the standard key bindings 1 through 0 or whatever on your keyboard. I only go to 6 usually whenever I design one of these, and then shift 1 through 6 right above that, because why not. And then I like to bind sort of like underneath the QWERTY. So what have I got, like shift A, shift, well, I'll actually talk about that later, but shift Z, shift X, shift C, that kind of region of the keyboard, but not with actual presses, just the shift pressing. But none of that's really important. What is important are sort of like the priorities and the rotation, and this is something you can go look up, and I'm sure that there are simulators that do a much better job at actually figuring out what is optimal to use than I do. Again, I sort of evolved into my play style, in tiny little steps, like a learning by comparison, and seeing, well, this seems to be working slightly better, and this doesn't seem to be working. And that actually varies on fight, and that's something I like to do. I like to look at different fights and say, is my rotation going to be significantly different on this fight for some reason? Is there like some kind of gap in time? And usually, in TOT, I don't think there really logically is, but I also like to work sort of like just off gut feeling more than logically or numerically. So let's just get into what I should have started talking about 3 minutes ago. We've got Storm Strike. Okay, Storm Strike. Let me just talk about Storm Strike. Hover over here. It's what you hit things. You take your weapons and you mush them into something in front of you, but you do it at like a great velocity, and that causes impact. Dealing 450% weapon damage, granting you the additional 25% chance to critically strike with Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Lightning Shield, which I believe counts as Static Shock, and Earth Shock. It's pretty good. Storm Strike right now for me is disturbed here. It's got to be the hardest hitting ability we have, like in one button press. I'm not saying the top like DPS from a button press. I don't think that could be anything but Fire Ellie, unless I'm missing something. Or I guess actually, Storm Lash Totem could be pretty good too, because it's raid wide DPS. But Storm Strike for me is sort of like what you need to be using off cooldown, and there's slight variations on this explained on the interwebs on your priority, exactly what it should be. And I think the general feeling is actually that Lava Lash is the harder hitting ability that we have. Lava Lash, let's go look at that. 10-second cooldown, slightly off of the 8-second cooldown, and that's important apparently. But you hit your offhand dealing 300% of that weapon's damage, and that's interesting. How could something that's only hitting for 300% of a weapon be doing more than something that hits with both hands 450%, right? Well, the first thing that people will probably point to is damage is increased by 40% if your offhand weapon is enchanted with Flame Tongue, which I always do. Yeah, I always do that. The second thing is that by using Searing Totem, and I believe that 40% is multiplicative, right? So let's look at that tooltip again. 300% of that weapon's damage isn't becoming 340, it's becoming, math, 420, I believe. And then we'll throw out Searing Totem, right? So I'll just Earth Shock this guy, and Searing Totem will get mad at him. No, did I lie? Let's try Flame Shock then. Come on, there you go. Okay, so as this thing is shooting this guy here, I actually get a buff. This used to be a debuff, and it was really annoying. A lot of people hated it. But this is a buff now. Whenever your Searing Totem attacks something, anything, you get a stacking buff up to 5 stacks, which means 5 shots from the Searing Totem gets you to your max here. And that happens, I think, easily within 6 to 7 seconds, so it's shorter than Lava Lash's cooldown. Flame Tongue attack damage increased by 40%. Okay, that's actually not what I'm looking for here. Here's what I'm looking for, right? No. What am I looking for? Alright, let's get flint shock running again. You have to bear with me because I don't feel like doing these videos over again. And obviously, I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Maybe I will do this one over again.